Hello guys, welcome to another video of this channel. So in this video we're going to be talking about how you can actually price your products and services correctly, right? And basically how you can do that, right? Now if you're like me, right, especially in the service sector, you might have faced the challenges on how you can price your services like correctly and competitively uh, to the customers, right? And gain that edge to win the customer over. It's always a problem, right? It's actually a big problem, not to me only, but to other people as well, right? Like people complain about this, but how do I price my service uh, to the point whereby I don't lose the client, right? Where the client might say, it is too much or not too much, right? Yeah, that's always a tricky situation because knowing how to price your services and products correctly can mean the difference between selling a product and actually not selling and actually losing a customer. So this is what we're going to be touching on today. Like, what do you have to look at? Like, what are the things that you need to consider before putting a sticker price on a service or product, right? Now, the very first thing to consider, right, when setting up your price for the product, it will be the cost, right? The cost associated with uh, delivering a service or acquiring and selling that product, right? So, what does it cost you to sell or that particular product or service to the client, right? So it all comes down to in this particular matter. Let's say maybe it's a physical product, right? The cost maybe might include things like if you're producing, maybe the material cost, and things such as the labor cost, the cost of the fixed costs like rent, uh, you know, transportation costs, and things of that nature. So those are the costs that you need to consider, right? And another thing would be, especially in the service sector, right? Will be the opportunity cost, right? So now, just to explain that for those that don't understand, right? Now, the opportunity cost is basically the cost of doing something, right? Or producing maybe or serving a certain client, right? Uh, which comes by losing actually another client, right? If I'm to, maybe I've got, let's say I've got two clients, right? They both want me to do a project for them. So if I chose one, right? Let's say I've only limited time, right, to solve their problems, right? To you know give a service to another. Otherwise, if I don't attend to that client, they will go to another service provider. So if I pick one client there, then the other one that goes to another client will be the opportunity cost. So you have to take a look at your projects and decide on which one is the best, right? Which one will actually reward me better, right? Where I think if I do it, right, and avoid doing that other project, my time and my resources uh, will be better dedicated to that client, right? I can afford to lose that one. So you have to see and evaluate your projects or your clients, right? In this case, and determine which one has better value and which one can be saved without maybe straining your resources, like time resources, right? So those are the things that you have to take note of, right? The first one is the cost, right? So the second one will be, I think, when determining the costs, especially in retail, right, will be the profit margin. I think profit margins, I think they better explain that situation, especially in the retail, right? They are better applied there. So if you were to resell something, how much profit are you willing to take from that? Because first of all, right, you have to calculate the cost, as I've said, right, of acquiring the product and actually reselling it. Now, you have to separate that first. So the next thing will be to determine like how much extra do you need to charge on top of the, no, on top of those costs, right? There will be cost and your profit margin. So I think at most the best profit margin will be 30%. I think that's the most common one. But again, in terms of profit margins, it determines on the product, right? Whether the product, what kind of a product it is, right? Is it electronics and things like that? Usually, just making an example, right? In terms of phones, right? If I buy a phone, maybe it costs maybe 5,000 rands, and I want to resell that phone. How much can I charge as a profit margin, right? I must say maybe 30% of that, right? 30% of 5,000, I can add that, right? It won't make much of a difference to the client that or the customer that will be buying that phone. But for example, for something like maybe earphones, right? If let's say I buy earphones for how much? 100 rands, right? 100 rands, and then I'm to resell that same earphone. I can actually go beyond 30%, right? I can actually add maybe 50 rand, so that's 50%, right? 50% a profit margin, or even 100%. It will be like 200 rands, right? 200 rands is about 10 bucks. Right? It's easier to sell or to charge or to put more profit margin on products that are of less value, right? That don't cost much, as opposed to cell phones and laptop things that cost more, right? So that's how you should do it. It's something that I just wanted to put in there. Now, the third, I'll say the third option, right? The third thing to consider, especially in service delivery, you have to deliver to consider the amount of time that will be required actually to complete that particular task, right? If, for example, you have to do landscaping, right, just doing gardening, things like that, you have to charge that services per hour. Like how much time are you going to be putting there? If doing the entire project for the client will take 4 hours, you must always have your hourly rate. How am I going to charge that? Right? You have to charge it as per hour. Right? So which means if you're charging maybe 100 rands per an hour, for 4 hours, that's 400 rands. So that's the whole project, right? So take a look into that. This is actually good for those that are into service delivery. But again, something that I've realized is also, as much as we charge per hour, right? One thing that we've to consider also in that aspect, which is the next thing, will be the customer budget. Of course, I wanted to put that at the end, but again, let just me talk about that. Uh, it's actually a very important thing to work with the customer, to work within the customer's budget, because end of the day, that always guarantee you a project. Right? If a customer is not willing to pay extra, you can actually negotiate and try to take whatever they're willing to offer. Right? So, a customer budget is something that I've always worked with, and as much as I present my own prices, I also ask my customers like how much are they willing to pay for it. Then from there, I look at my own prices, then the price of the client. Then from there, I determine on whether I can take this project or not. Because now that is not on the customer's hands to seal the deal, right? It's now on your end, right? it's now on end, which is actually good, right? It's better for the the whole opinion or the decision actually to continue the project to rely on you as the service provider as opposed to the client, right? So yeah, at least in that way you know that you can actually do it and things like that. So that is something to consider. So in addition to that, right, let's take a look at another option, the next thing that you need to really consider. That is the market prices, right? So whenever you're selling something, especially a commodity, let's start with the common products, like maybe phones, like maybe phone is not too common, but let's say accessories, chargers, headphones, earphones, um, you know, things like that, right? They always have a certain market price, right? They always have market price. Same way as, like, for example, oranges, something that we eat, right? Fruits, tomatoes, oranges, things like that. They always have a market price, right? So if you are selling those kind of things, considering the market price is actually a very good idea, right? It's actually easier for that way. I think people that are actually into retailing, they have that. I don't think they struggle much with pricing their products because they always know that most of the products that they have, the commodities, they always have a market price as per location where you're located. You simply go there and copy your neighbor, right? Copy your neighbor. So market prices, I'll say competitor pricing. Exactly, it's almost similar thing like what your competitors are charging. So it's almost related. Though I just wanted to put that point differently, but for that kind of thing, I'll put it there, right? So market prices, very good. Now, maybe in terms of services, competitor pricing might stand alone, especially in our case, right? There's not really a price that, for example, what we do, like consultancy, um, maybe things like what, if I'm to design, I make company profiles. Personally, I charge different prices from other people, and I try to do a little bit of research. And from what I gathered, right, is that most uh, service providers, right, in that particular niche, they charge different prices. Right? You can find someone who's actually a good designer that is charging higher prices, like premium prices, and you can find someone that is actually producing standard work that is charging maybe lower prices. Sometimes it's going to be kind of in the middle, right? Not higher. Sometimes it can be even lower. So that kind of different. So yeah, you might check your competitors. You might check your competitors, and of course, another thing is I'm on the same page, right? As I've mentioned, if you're doing a better job, especially in the service sector, you might as well price your work. Right? Price your work is considering considering actually the quality that you deliver. So it is important to know those kind of things, right? So yeah. So apart from that, I don't think there is another criteria that you need to consider, especially um, when deciding which price to charge. But again, if there is something like that, I will like you to comment it below, right? Just comment it below and say, yeah, you forgot this and that. And actually, it will also help other people that actually are dealing with this situation, right? Like pricing, especially on the service sector, right? If you're providing services that don't have many competitors, especially like our own, it's actually very difficult to charge clients, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't know if you're overcharging or you're undercharging. So yeah, pricing is a serious problem, especially in the service sector. So guys, again, there isn't much that I want to say on this video, but again, thank you for watching this video, and until then, see you on the next one.